dedicate this little message to Hal Vaughn. At the end of life, what really matters is not what we bought or what we built, not what we got, but what we shared. Not our competence, but our character, and not our success, but our significance. Live a life that matters. Live a life of love. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sterling. And indeed, today we want to recognize and remember Hal Vaughn, who was very dear to many of us who knew him well. And we're going to start with Natalie, who, along with Armenia, would usually sit at the same table when we met at the University Club, front and center, very close to the lectern, with a ringside view of the speakers and everything. And I just want to say how special it was for myself to know Hal Vaughn. He was a Rotarian extraordinaire, was noted for his 100% attendance. He also graduated from the University of Chicago and had a lot in common. So I'm going to turn it over to Natalie, and then Armenia, and finally Nancy. We'll say a little bit. Then anyone else who would like to chime in, they're more than welcome to. Natalie, please share your memories and all.
Okay, thank you, Bill. It is with great sadness that I'm here to share with you the passing of Dr. Harold Albert Vaughn, Jr., known as Hal to many. Hal had a fall in his apartment around Thanksgiving that required a hip repair. After surgery, he went to a rehabilitation center. While Hal initially did well, he then contacted COVID and took a turn for the worst. He died this past Sunday. He was 95 years old. Hal was an active member of Rotary for 69 years, 27 of those years in the DC Club, with 100% attendance, as Bill mentioned. He was a dedicated and humble member who did not draw attention to himself, but steadily, effectively, and passionately worked behind the scenes on various Rotary projects, including some of the most challenging. He was particularly committed, together with Ross Grantham, on proposals related to sexual trafficking of children and women, specifically in Thailand. He introduced the idea of the Duck Race as a large fundraiser for our club, and along with Lisa McCurdy and many others, brought it to fruition. It was no secret that Hal was an amazing cook, and his committee meetings with delicious Italian dishes and elegant wines are unsurpassed. My friendship with Hal began in 2007 when I joined Rotary. The deal was that Armenia, who lived the furthest away from the University Club, would pick up Hal, swing by my office, and then the three of us would drive together to Rotary. When we arrived, it was our job, Hal's and mine, to jump out of the car and find seats together as close to the podium as possible in order to hear and see the speaker well. As a result, some Rotarians referred to us as the Three Musketeers. In these car rides for 15 years, I began to know Hal. His warmth, his kindness, and perceptiveness. Our conversations were often about politics and the news. Hal was a lifelong Democrat and loved and understood politics. He was wise and current, summarizing the political events in a sentence or two that was brilliantly succinct and punchy. He had a great and wry sense of humor. Once I asked him what he thought of Omarosa, remember her? He quickly turned to me and without missing a beat said, "Well, I do think Trump has met his match." It was always interesting to be in Hal's company. Hal was a modern Renaissance man. He was a scholar with a keen interest in history and culture, a lover of music, a collector of art, a writer, and a person who traveled extensively and fell in love with Italy, and a beautifully elegant Italian athlete by the name of Maria Pia. She had won gold medals in downhill skiing. They married. Hal learned Italian. They shared a second home in Florence. A stylish couple, Hal always preferred a silk ascot over a tie. He was a true gentleman at heart. Harold was a graduate student at the University of Chicago and earned his PhD from Syracuse University. He then joined the faculty at Syracuse, where he helped establish their studies abroad program. In the mid-1980s, Hal and Maria Pia moved to Little Rock, Arkansas, where he taught political theory at the university and helped to build an international studies program. One of his projects in Little Rock involved a working relationship with Hillary Clinton. In the mid-1990s, he moved to DC, where he was a consultant in international education for the American Association of State Colleges and University. Hal loved reading and writing. He told me this past year he finished writing a historical novel that he was looking to publish. The setting of the novel was, of course, Italy. Hal was also quite the athlete in his heyday and a major sports enthusiast. Time does not allow me to elaborate, but let's just say, go Orangemen, Syracuse. Hal is survived by 2 sisters, 8 children, 16 grandchildren, 21 great-grandchildren, and numerous nieces and nephews. He is a descendant of one of the oldest families in the United States. Hal leaves behind a larger-than-life legacy and will be missed by countless friends and family, including his Rotary family. To me, Hal was an inspiration of integrity, purpose, a life well lived, and service above self. He left the world a better place. Hal, you'll be greatly missed, and thank you for being such a good friend. And now I'm going to turn it over to a good friend, a colleague, a Rotarian, and our driver, Erminia Scarcella.
Thank you, Natalie. I try not to cry, but I do have tears in my eyes. You remember to us Rotarian and the distinguished guest, our dear friend Harold, extremely well. I met Harold more than 20 years ago because he was married to Maria Pia, the Italian aristocrat, friend of mine, who died many years ago, leaving Harold after an incurable cancer. As Natalie mentioned, soon after I joined Rotary Club, Harold, Natalie, and I were coming to Rotary together, making the commuting fun and warm for 15 years. I think that you all might like to know that Harold's roots are from Scottish family who moved to America a year after the first settlement at the beginning of 1600. He was a perfect gentleman, and he has been an inspiration for all of us Rotarians because he was above self at any given time, as a good Rotarian is. And he was an inspiration mostly for me, because his way to talk was always filled with substance, with the care for others, with a respectful attitude, with the elegant tone of a voice, being gracious in relating to others, with one open mind and with an excellent international way to evaluate events of our modern society. His mind had the gift of the depth of the wise men. I wish all Rotarians, and mostly the young Rotarians, being able to acquire the gifts in relating to others as Harold used to do. Thank you for listening. And now I leave Nancy Riker, our dear former president, to share the thoughts about our Rotary member, Harold.
Thank you, Erminia. All these words, I can't add to them, but I can give you some fun facts about Harold. Hal, as we know him, first of all, he was related to Paul Harris through marriage. His wife is and was in his family. So he was always proud of that. He wrote that upon graduation from high school, he was voted the most humorous. And I thought that was funny that he put that in his bio. The other thing he said was that when he was with the Army Air Corps during the war, he trained as a surveyor to lay emergency landing strips, and he made it all the way to buck sergeant, and he never shot anyone, he wrote. He also had a night job doing window displays for an exclusive fashion stores. It doesn't say where, but I can see Harold at night putting some mannequins together. That would be hilarious. So those are just things that I will always remember reading about him that just endeared him to me. I will say that he and I were members of the same church, the National United Methodist Church on Nebraska Avenue. And there will be a memorial service for him in the spring. More of that will be coming out. There will be an obituary, I believe, released. I'm not sure when or if it's in the Washington Post or what, but he will be interred at South Glen Falls, New York, where he's from. And I also have his son's address and name if anyone wants to send a letter, a card, a sympathy card to the family. He did ask for donations to be sent to the DC Rotary Foundation in his memory, as well as another foundation called the Peter Schlendorf, SCHLENDORF Foundation. So he will always be missed, but he will always be remembered. He will be missed, but he will always be remembered by this club and all the individuals who knew him so well. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, Natalie and Armenia. Hal was a Rotarian extraordinaire. He was always present. He had 100% attendance when we were meeting in person. He was front and center, right there up near the speakers. Truly an inspiration to all of us. He loved Rotary. And I was delighted when he showed up for the changing of the guard. I didn't expect it, but he was there. He was always present. Was truly a friend of those who got to know him. Man of great wisdom. And of course, our condolences go out to his family. And Nancy and Armenia and Natalie, thank you again for your words today, honoring Hal and his life and his amazing love of his Rotary Club. So we're going to miss him very much.
His daughter is also on the call.
Yes, hi.
Duke.
And I'm Karen Schlendorf.
So nice to have you with us. And we always talk about our Rotary family, and Hal was a major part of that. And by extension, you are too. So always feel free to join us. So we're going to miss Hal very much. He was such a part of the life of the club. And we just are very thankful for having had him with us all these years and appreciate his many contributions, including to the International Service Committee, our Embassy and International Relations Committee. He was, as I said, a Rotarian par excellence and an inspiration to all of us.
Thank
So our
you.
sincere condolences to you and the rest of the family. And we feel we have condolences. You know, we're going to miss him very much. That's all I want to say. It's a loss for all of us.
Thank you. And thank you for your kind words about our dad.
Bill, Bill, if I
yes.
may, Ross Grantham.
Oh, Ross, you're there. Yes,
Yeah.
please, Ross. We couldn't miss you. Good to see you.
Um, I miss Hal terribly, and he and I had a weekly routine of meeting for coffee. And we did that for several years up until COVID intervened. And we solved every problem that exists in the world, and argued over many aspects of Rotary and world affairs. And I just look forward to those coffees so much, and I'm going to miss the man terribly. He's one of the few men I can say openly that I loved him dearly. Thanks, Bill.
Ross, it's great to see you. Thank you for those words. I understand completely what you're saying. And I know we're all going to miss Hal for his the very special person he was.
I'm sorry, like all of us, that we're not together in person, especially as we mark the passing of Hal Vaughn. As Ross said, Hal and he have been meeting regularly over the years since we came back from Bangkok, picking up initially on the work that they did on human trafficking. And one of the things that was really, really nice was a couple of years back, I organized a surprise birthday for Ross for his 80th birthday. And I managed to get his 3 kids from New Zealand, Australia, and the United Kingdom without him knowing. And Hal joined us with a lovely dinner to celebrate with family and friends. So our kids have actually had a short opportunity to get to know Hal as well.
2 quick comments on Hal. He was the Renaissance man. I'll leave it at that. He definitely was. And in his later months, it was amazing to see him attend even our Twin Cities meetings with Edinburgh and Paris. He was always there in his armchair. Sometimes he nodded off, but he was always there. And I will remember that.
Truly a Renaissance man, as Natalie said. And there aren't too many of those.